Um, Hi, yeah. So we're here today talking to Framingham Mayor Yvonne Spicer, who's running for her second term as mayor. What would be the city's second mayor ever. So yeah, just say hello, Mayor Spicer, and introduce yourself.
Hello, and yes, I am Framingham's first mayor, first woman, first African-American person. So I guess we hit it out the park with all three things in one election. And I'm very proud to be the mayor of the city.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, but we got almost exactly 2 weeks before the election, so we wanted to sit down with you and just talk about Framingham and the future of the city and things that are going on now. So yeah, I just wanted to start by talking about if you win on November 2nd and you take your second term, what things will be different? Like what things do you want to change about how you do business, either politically or from an administrative perspective?
Well, first of all, looking at these past 3.5 years as mayor, not a lot of people get to say they get to transition a town to a city. Which we did in Framingham, and then also to run a city during a pandemic for the last 18 months. And of course, looking at concerns around racism and racial upheaval in this country. So all of that was happening simultaneously while trying to move our city forward. And I've learned an awful lot, because that, I think, in many ways, as a former teacher, you learn through when things don't go very well. You learn very quickly how to counter and how to make adjustments as need be. And that has been the case for us. And I think also the fact that as a city, a new city, we don't have a roadmap of what Framingham should be. Yes, I laid out a vision for Framingham, and I've exercised that vision looking at the 5 pillars that I've focused on: our transition from town to city, economic development, education, investing in our people, and of course, green and open spaces. These were the 5 major pillars that I've focused on over the last 3.5 years, and I'll continue focusing on those. So what's going to be different? First of all, I'm an experienced mayor now. I know a lot more, and I've gone through a lot more than probably anyone could have ever imagined over the last 3.5 years. I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish, especially as we went through this pandemic. Currently, roughly about 72% of Framingham residents are fully vaccinated against COVID. And when we think about 18 months ago, we didn't even know what we were dealing with. So traversing through all of those steps to bring my community healthy. So right now we're focused on recovery and revitalization of Framingham. And that's one of the things in this next term. I'm going to keep doubling down on making sure that we're doing more things to grow our economy, keep that moving forward, to make sure that people are healthy and safe and living in this community, and also building those relationships around concerns and issues that we may have had, especially as it relates to communicating with our city council. I feel that we've been able to move the needle on some things with the council, and there's some work still to be done, but looking for that common ground. And that's one of the things that I am going to work harder at, is trying to find those common ground issues that we can work together on. And when we've had opportunities to do that, whether it be the creation of the Sustainability Committee, that was done in collaboration with City Council, and that now exists. We, for the first time ever in the history of Framingham, we have a sustainability committee. So I think, using this time to learn from what we've gone through, reflect on what we did really well, reflect on what we can do better, and focus on it, focus on getting it done.
Was there anything in your first term that you didn't get done because of the pandemic, or something else that you want to do now? Yeah, but that's.
Yes. There are a number of targeted efforts that literally had to come to a screeching halt because of the need to, close down things, and while we had to deal with what was happening with this pandemic. Economic development is really key to any community, and really looking at ways in which we can grow businesses in Framingham, build those relationships with cadres of different types of businesses. Even though we had some growth, we during that 18 months, we opened up several new businesses, but we probably could have done it at a much more accelerated rate if, in fact, the pandemic wasn't going on. Particularly, I look at downtown. Downtown has started to come back alive, and that's exciting. But there's still room to grow downtown. There's still room. We have new housing. We're still needing to have some new amenities in downtown that people don't need to get in the car and drive to. They're right there. That we're creating an environment that is walkable, a city, a downtown that is walkable and accessible. Those are the places where I would love to be able to continue that effort. And, I sometimes joke with people to say, I sometimes get jealous of what I see in Somerville as well as on Moody Street in Waltham, but I see our downtown being a cross section of something similar, being able to have entertainment, restaurants, goods and services right in the heart of downtown Framingham that people can access. So that's one area. The other thing that I have to acknowledge is that, our education system during this last 18 months, having to go to remote learning. And I know as a former teacher, an administrator, I worked very closely with the superintendent and listening and learning what had to be done in order to transition fully to remote learning. And it was a monumentous task that I have to take my hat off to the teachers. Because as a former teacher, I know I would have had a real challenging time teaching my subject matter online, all remotely. And also the resiliency of our children. That's something that I'm keeping a keen eye on, because truly it is traumatizing not to be able to have something that you're used to and it's abruptly taken away. And so I'm glad we're back in school, but we're also needing to assess what needs to be done in order to keep us moving. So these are some areas where I felt that particularly in our community, that the pandemic really truncated in many ways. And so we're looking at the recovery piece, because it is a system. Our economic development fuels what we can do in our city, what projects we can do, the resources we have available. And so that's something that I really want us to continue to jumpstart as we recover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, yeah, I did want to talk about the school system a little bit. So, obviously you're a member of the city, the school committee, in some capacity. So if you come back in 2022, you'll have a couple new members, some returning members. But I don't know, like, what's your outlook for the school system? Because there's been some static, I guess, between your office and the school committee about budgeting. We've seen them kind of create their own account to collect revenue for the rent at the from Mass Bay, and there's been some other things like that. So like, what's your focus, or what's going to be your focus going into the new budgeting year with the school system and new school committee?
Well, I just want to make sure we understand my role on school committee. I'm an ex officio member of school committee, which means that I don't vote. I don't get a chance to vote on anything. I only vote in the event of a tie. And I think as a mayor that has a background in education, both as a teacher and an administrator, I have a really good sense of education. And I also taught for 16 years here in Framingham Public Schools. So I'm very familiar with our school system and some of the history of our schools. But with this elected hat of being the mayor, I'm responsible for the budget, not only for the school department, but for the entire city, the police, the fire, the health department. All of that comes out of one pot. And so to balance that is, somewhat challenging some years based on the forecast for what funding we'll have in our city. But I'm very proud to say for the last 4 years, I've increased the school budget by 15.2%, totaling $19.4 million. Every year that I have been mayor, the school department has fortunately ended the year with a surplus, which they've been able to reclassify some expenses and actually, put this money in what is called a circuit breaker account. And that has happened every single year I've been mayor. The school department is also roughly about 61% of the city's budget. And that 61% also includes the healthcare costs for teachers and administrators. So, when I think about budgeting for schools, I want to make sure that we're doing everything to get the best possible resources to the children. That means their teachers, their school books, whatever other resources that are needed. And that's something that I have supported wholeheartedly. I've gone before the state at the State House and testified on behalf of the Student Opportunity Act and funding for that. So, and when it comes to buildings, I've gone and fought for the new Fuller School and getting the funding for that for the last 3 years. I've been an integral part of that process. So I want to see us continue to look at how do we build a community that has excellent education, that parents feel safe, that their children are safe, that they're getting a good quality education and extracurricular activities. That is something that I want to continue to do, and to the best of our ability as a community to be able to fund that. And look at some of those alternative ways that we can fund budgets and gain more revenue for our community. So those are the things that I will continue to do with the school department, and we'll keep looking at at the situation as we move forward. So.
Yeah, and the city's side of the budget has increased, over the last 4 years, but it's a majority of those increases have been Chapter 70, the Opportunity Act that you mentioned. So about 15 million of that increase over the last 4 years has been from the state, not local. So I mean, we're looking at probably they've already started the process of building a Southside school. There's a lot of capital stuff that they want to do with replacing school roofs and that sort of thing. So I mean, are you I don't know, like what kind of are you looking at increasing the city side even more than has been, or is that something you kind of want to keep in line of where it's been I think it's been in the $1 or $2 million from the city side each year. Right.
It's actually more than that. To give you an example, the Chapter 70 money only increased $279,000 this past school year. The school department did get over $2.5 million, a 2.5% increase from the city, despite only getting that small amount. So in essence, they got a bigger chunk of money. And that's something that we're going to have to look at, because keep in mind, we have a number of school buildings and municipal buildings that over the last 30, 40 years have not been maintained to the level that it should have been. And we do have some things that are urgent, and just as the school department has had some urgent needs, I remember a year or so ago, a library facility needed some immediate attention. I stood ready and able to try to find the resources in order to solve that challenge. And as we think about all of our buildings, and we've done a needs assessment, I think the school department, Mr. Tordai, and also Jim Paolini, they've worked very closely together to look at the condition of all of our buildings that we own in the city of Framingham. And some of them, definitely need some immediate attention, but we have to look at how do we fund those repairs? Do we bond that? How much do we bond? And actually, how much can actually get done every single year? The notion of a new school in Framingham, first of all, trying to think about the feasibility of that. Where would that go? What land do we own in order to put a new school? All of those things is part of a thought process. And so we did put forth a request to study that and the possibility of it happening, but also it's all geared towards enrollment and what our enrollment will look like as we go forward. And, once again, we made some decisions many years ago where we took school buildings and converted them to housing or other uses on the south side of Framingham. So therefore, we have very limited schools on South Framingham. So we need to look at that, and we need to look at ways to counter that. I mean, I hoped a couple of years ago, tried to look at purchasing the Perini building, which would have given us a lot of options
Mhm.
and options for the school department to live in that space, but also to renovate schools, use the current Farley building as a swing space school where, say, for example, we had to renovate one of the elementary schools. We didn't have to wait until the summer to do that work when the school's out. We could do that during the course of a year because we could relocate those students for maybe that semester, and that building could be repaired. So the option of purchasing the Perini building would have given us a lot of flexibility in terms of where we can move within our school department, and really try to think about, should the Farley School be a full-time school building rather than office space for the administration? So looking at all of the options possible, going forward, and as I think about our community going forward, I think about existing building spaces. Are we going to have to think about ways in which we do things very differently? For example, a number of our office buildings in the city of Framingham, some of them are not full. They are vacant right now. Can we think about reusing and repurposing those buildings in terms of using as different types of space, office space, or even perhaps educational space, maybe an early childhood center on the first floor of each one of those buildings? So those are the kinds of things we need to start thinking outside the box on. It's not always, can we acquire some land to build something new? How about, can we repurpose something that we currently have in place and think differently about it?
Hmm. Yeah, the I remember the Perini thing was that was right before the pandemic, obviously, kind of killed it in some ways, but that was a big thing you wanted to get done in 2020. But do you think that's back on the table if you come back into office?
Well, I don't know whether it's back into play, because I certainly, don't know what the folks that own that building want to do. And it was an unfortunate thing, that, because I truly think the resources that we are spending to renovate one building, but it really is not solving all of our challenges, where we would have had an opportunity to solve a lot more of our challenges because we had the space to do that. And once again, it doesn't. One of the impetus is that we were going to solve some of the challenge within the school department, but also in municipal government too. We don't have enough space for folks in the memorial building, so that problem and that challenge still exists.
Mhm. Um, yeah, well, I guess talking about space and growth, I'm just gonna, I wanted to, I guess, conclude here by asking you about the future of Framingham. Framingham's in a pretty envious place between Worcester and Boston. It's got a commuter rail line, several highways, shopping centers, corporate headquarters that are international companies. But at the same time, Framingham seems to kind of retain the character of the small town that it probably once was many years ago, and now a city. You can't buy a house in Framingham for probably under $500,000. I just actually looked. The cheapest single family house in Framingham on Redfin right now is $420,000, but it's condemned. So there you go. If you want to take out a $400,000 mortgage for that. The Bancroft Lofts just opened, and those apartments are renting for $2,300 a month. They're very nice, but they're very expensive. So I guess, the question is, what's your vision for the future of Framingham, and who is Framingham, I guess, for as we move into the 2020s?
As the mayor of the city, I've tried to lay the foundation, the groundwork, so to speak, to make Framingham a world-class city. I'm very proud of this community there, and it's one of the reasons I've lived here for the last 36 years. It has been a very convenient place to live. No matter what position I've had, it's been a great location. I also have appreciated all of the amenities, and what I see Framingham being is that midway city in between Boston and Worcester, that is the hub of Metro West, that it offers a good place to live, raise a family, to grow into your golden years, and it has the beauty of convenience and services, while still maintaining green and open spaces where you would feel like you're in a park-like setting in some location, enjoying our beaches, our waterways. Families are seeing Framingham as a destination to be in because you have so much here. And we're poised to do that. I mean, we are a community that is healthy economically. We are a community that has welcomed new businesses, and we have a wide array of different types of businesses, from the life sciences all the way to financial services. And that's exciting. You know, you look along our major highways, Route 9 corridor, 2 Mass Pike exits right in Framingham. Those are all of the things that make a community very vibrant. I see an opportunity for us to continue building on that. And that's what I envision. You know, I sometimes drive to Worcester and I see that they have the Woo socks. Well, you gotta get, if you're on the train from Boston, you know, you have to pass Framingham to get to Worcester. Why not give people a reason to get off that train in Framingham and explore our community? Those are the things that I hope for. And as I mentioned, I see our downtown as being much more vibrant and energetic, and having music and restaurants and goods and services. So all of that is in the realm of Framingham. I often say to people, Framingham is a community that we have to be conscious of. The one thing that we always talk about is what's wonderful about Framingham, and it's our diversity. And we have to make sure that we're doing everything we can to ensure that people of diverse backgrounds, diverse economic, socioeconomic statuses can live in this community. And that's one of the things that we have to be keenly aware of: who can come into Framingham, who can stay in Framingham. There's just so much tremendous opportunity for us. You know, we just broke the ground on the new Mass Bay Community College for life sciences, which is a burgeoning industry. That's going to be pivotal for us, as well as our four-year university. We want to make sure that those graduates, when you graduate from Framingham State, if you want to stay in Framingham, there's a place for you to go. And that's something that I look at and I say, that's what kept me here. I came here as a 20-something, found a nice apartment to live in. I taught in our school system, and I've never left. And I've been able to keep building a life for myself in this community. And I want to see that for everyone that lives in Framingham. We have the potential.
Do you happen to, this is just kind of maybe a funny question, but do you happen to remember how much your rent was in the 1980s here?
Yes, I do. I know exactly how much it was. It was $495 a month. But keep in mind, it was relative to my yearly salary, which was $18,000 a year.
That's actually that's not that cheap. I was expecting like $200 a month, maybe.
No, it was $495.
But yeah, I mean, it is interesting in Framingham. You see like these kind of different populations. You have like, the people who are going to Jack's Abbey and they're living downtown, they're taking the train to Boston to work, you know, younger people, millennials perhaps. Then you have the people who've lived here many years, maybe they live on the north side. Then you have people who are coming here from different countries who are, you know, joining the you know, large, vibrant communities, migrant communities that are here. And I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there's these three populations maybe kind of, I don't know if they're competing for the city, but they're all kind of, they are, I guess, in some ways competing for attention in the city. So like, you know, I don't know, which direction would the city go in? Like, do you want to attract more of those millennials? Do you want to, you know, keep Framingham as a place for older people who are retiring? I'm sure you'd probably want to say that we want to do it for all three, but like, you know, in reality, there's you know, somebody's gonna, I guess, lose maybe. I mean, like, what do you see as the future here?
You've stated it quite well. We have to balance. We have to balance across the board, because it is those new workers that are building, starting their career. They're the ones that are in Jack Abbey's, spending their dollar in the community 3 times over. But more of I would say our golden citizens, they may not be out and spending and supporting the economy in the way that some of our younger folks can possibly do that. I think there has to be a balance, but because we need those businesses to be supported in order to stay open, we need those workers in those businesses, but we also need to make sure that our golden citizens don't feel like they're being pushed out of the community, and that there are things here that they want to enjoy and that they value in this community. And I think as I listen to a lot of our older adults, they want to be able to have a place where they can go and enjoy a coffee and a pastry with their friends, have a conversation, walk to the library, and do it safely and feel like they belong in this community. Many of them want to think about ways in which they could downsize. They may be in a large house that is way too big for what their needs are, right? But where do they go? If we could find appropriate housing for them right here in Framingham, they want to stay in this community. So those are the things that it's a delicate balance of weighing those things out. And I don't think the needs are mutually exclusive. I think those can all be met together, whether you're having a vibrant place for young people to live, but also their next door neighbors could be seniors. That, I think, there's a good opportunity there for greater intergenerational connections and accountability for each other. That's what makes our diversity in the city of Framingham so rich and so vibrant.
Yeah, I guess, and kind of lastly, like how do you see the mayor's role in kind of shaping that future? Like what does the mayor do to make sure that everyone's interests are met? Like how do you do that?
Well, once again, it's a collaborative, inclusive effort that includes the city council, the school committee, working with our leadership team within city government, and also being able to make our city attractive to other folks. So once again, coming back to the notion of economic development, it's not just getting the businesses, it's getting the other amenities, making sure our community can support other things that people want to be here. I don't want to just come and work here. I want to know that I can come here and I can live here and I can raise my family. And that will be something that we have to make sure that's happening for people. So it's a good opportunity to examine what have we done in the past that helps or hinders this possibility. And certainly I will have to say, during this pandemic where we had to pivot on a dime on some things, helping restaurants stand up and open, you know what? We changed some of the rules. You could have outside dining. You could have takeaway alcohol. These are the things that we've changed the rules of engagement in order to increase the opportunities for our businesses that help them stay in place to survive. And so that's one of the things that we have to really think about. Are the rules of engagement that we have in place right now helping or hindering what we really want to achieve in our community? And I'll work as mayor to make sure that we are doing everything possible to help us continue to grow as a prosperous new city across the country.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, I guess, that's, I guess we'll wrap things up here. Hopefully people have gotten some insights out of this, but unfortunately the voter registration deadline passed a week ago. But is there anything you have to say to anybody before they head to the polls or, mail in their ballot?
I've enjoyed being your mayor for the last 3.5 years. I feel like we've done a lot of great things in Framingham, and we've started to move the needle in a way that our city has never seen before. And I want to continue doing that. And I can only do that with your help. So please, I ask you for your vote on November 2nd. And if you can't get to the polls on November 2nd, you can mail your ballot in early, and you can just check with the clerk's office and get a ballot and mail it in. But you must vote. I can't win if you don't vote. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, yeah, I guess we'll wrap things up there. Thank you for tuning in.